Go ahead and sit with your shins crossed. Flex your feet, toes pulled back towards the knee. Place the hands on the middle of your thigh, lift your spine up. Drop your shoulders down, lift the head. When you lift the spine, the neck is part of that, so get that extension of the neck. Press your hands down again. Take a deep breath, and when you exhale, your back ribs come towards each other. Side rib forward, front rib up. Your shoulders drop, your head stay high, your eyes closed. Take a few moments, each deep breath in, slow breath out. To remind yourself why you're here on the mat. It's easy to begin yoga because you want the benefits of it, to be healthier, happier, wiser, calmer, whatever. But just as important as what you're looking for is the reason you're here. What fuels you on your drive to those things? Because whatever you're using to fuel yourself will ultimately affect what you get at the end. It can often become easy to only end up doing good work because you feel like you have to. And the feeling of have to becomes force. And as many of you know, I never agree with the idea of forcing yourself to a lot of things, because there's a lot of things worth fighting and forcing, not yourself. Encourage yourself, love yourself, whatever reason needs to be. So that while you're here on your mat in this class, that thing that's fueling you go forward can be the thing that will in part become what you're looking for. Are you here because you love yoga, because this is your time, because you got all these yoga props and by God, you're going to use them? Look at those things. So that maybe your practice can be something that is not force or tension. That there can be passion and drive, but not force. You can let yourself be in your practice and be in that state you want to be in all the time. Because I promise you, forcing yourself to be on this work, on the mat, isn't going to bring peace. Ultimately, peace does not come through force. It can come with passion, it can come with drive, discipline, not force. So maybe today, friends, as you go through the poses, if you need to rest, give yourself that chance to rest. Have the discipline to stay in the work. But it's always, if it hurts, you stop. And that when you come out of a pose to rest for a moment, when you get back into it, try to find the joy or the drive or the reason to be here that is one that ultimately is more sustainable than force or aggression. And that you let the joy or the love or the passion or the determination or the discipline become what you're practicing. And just let the physical asana be a representation of that. Because some of us might know, if you've hurt yourself in a class, what force in a yoga pose does. If it hurts your bones or your muscle, force in your head or heart will definitely hurt one of those two. Bring the palms together at your chest, thumbs touching your sternum. Blow them shortly 3 times and begin. Take a nice deep breath in. Om. Flex your feet. Om. Spine up. Om. Bow your head. Salute the essence of yoga inside yourself. Bring your hands into your lap. The head rise, the eyes open. So nice to see some more people who came in. Hi, Caitlin. Hi, Pratima. All right, grab a yoga block if you would. If you don't have a yoga block, you can use a saucepan or something of a yoga block size to be able to squeeze between your palms. Come onto your elbows and knees on your yoga mat, squeezing the block between the palms of the hands. So you'll squeeze the block between the palms flat, holding the narrow sides of the block. Just like that, Chaya. You got it. When you squeeze the palms into the block, make sure you're squeezing with the 5 joints, the heel of the hand, and not gripping or wrapping your fingers around it, because you don't want to do this with the joint itself. You want to do it with the strength of the palm. So with your elbows on the floor, elbows underneath your shoulders, hips a little bit apart on your knees. Exhale, lift your hips up into downward dog, but keep your elbows on the floor, squeezing the block. Walk your feet back a little bit, Glenda. Give yourself some space to move, dear. There you go. Good. Now, when you lift your hips up into down dog here, squeezing the block, try not to walk your feet forward, and don't even try to worry about taking your heels down to the floor right now. Worry more about the lift and extension of the spine. If your back and shoulders are tight, you don't need to push on your hamstrings too much. So as you squeeze the block, think about the pinky side of your arm, what is touching the floor right now, that part of the forearm. What parts of it are pressing into the floor more than the others? Is it your elbow or your forearm or the wrist? Can you put equal pressure across the 3? And this is where it takes some level of bicep flexion. Hips up in the air, Glenda, not plank. Downward dog, dear. Thank you. So when you press your forearm down, you try to press through the length of the forearm, flex the bicep on the arm, right? And push that down so you feel the shoulder blades have to stretch a little bit to push down through the arm. You don't just want to let your body weight be on the joint. You want to actually create extension of the bent limb. Breathe a couple times, feel it out. Exhale, come on down. Turn your palms up to the ceiling. When you turn your palms up to the ceiling, squeeze the block with the pinky side of the hand from the first joint of the pinky down through the side of the palm, maybe even to the wrist. Squeezing like this. So your palms will be up, thumbs rolling to the floor. When you forearms will stay on the floor, and just like when you felt the bone press into the floor, feel how much of your forearm, wrist to elbow, is pressing in the floor here. Squeeze the block. Try to roll your thumbnail down. Exhale, lift both hips up into the air. Downward dog. But again, don't try to push your heels down. This is more of an experimentation, and look at the upper body. Don't worry about your poor hamstrings. I'll get them. They're going to do work anyway. Flex your thighs, let your heels stay up off the floor, and work more on, can you squeeze the block with each hand equally? And then when you feel your forearm from wrist to elbow, what part is pressing into the floor the hardest? And what does it take in the flexion of your bicep and the arm muscle and the back muscle to press all of it down equally? Of course, this does not mean lift your forearms up, but it means you have to press down the extension of the limb, forearm to wrist, more. This is where we have to actually engage the bicep and the back muscle. When you do inversions, whether it's headstand, handstands, forearm balances, any of that jazz, you have to not just drop your weight into the elbow, you have to create extension of the limb from the upper back. So think about, as you press the forearm down, the shoulder blades stretching towards the wrist. So your upper back has to extend and broaden a little bit. It's exhausting. Come on down. Don't worry, you're going to get to do this a few more times. You get lots of practice. Now turn your palms flat to the floor with the block between the index and thumb of each hand. Try to spread your fingers out because that's just a good habit to keep developing for downward dog and other poses anyway. So with the thumb and index finger wrapped around the block, palm flat to the floor, elbows under your shoulders again. Already become aware of wrist to elbow where your pressure is. Flex the bicep, push down through the palm, push down through the forearm, lift your hips up into the air. So now you hinge the shoulder joint on the back. Don't worry about taking your heels down. I know some of you are oh so mobile and eager, but you know, why make the one thing I'm trying to teach you harder? Flex the bicep. Look at your arm, and just like we do in normal class or any class, use your visual eyes to see where your elbows and hands have gone. Has one hand collapsed in and the other stays spread? Can you keep them both open? Are both biceps flexing? The bicep is the large muscle between your elbow and your shoulder on the top of your arm. And they keep flexed even though you may not initially feel how that helps. Flex that bicep as best you can, and then try to press the whole length of the forearm down and feel how when you keep that bicep flexed, it starts to allow the upper back to have some different work. Maybe fatigue or mobility, but it's going to work that part of the body, especially the muscles from your shoulder blades up into your armpit, the dorsi, and the like. These are part of the muscles that make it difficult to even lift your spine up straight. If we're very tight, we slouch, they tighten up. Exhale, come on down. All right, well, let's add to it. Now that you're warmed up, turn your palms up. I see some of you grabbing your deltoids already tired. Good. That means you are here to do the work. And just as I said at the start, when it gets hard or just when you're here, you have to figure out why you're here. And even though it gets hard, can you keep telling yourself the right things so you change your own language just as you're changing your body? Back of the hand pressing, or I'm sorry, not back of the hand, I apologize. Let's squeeze the block with the palm. Go back to the very first position. So when you squeeze the palm into the block again, pinky side of the hand all the way through the elbow. Flex the biceps, push the arm down, lift the hips up. Now, if you look at your arms, most of you have your chest moving to your knees, which is correct for downward dog, but we're going to change a couple things to start training the upper back muscle to work better. Lean forward just enough that the shoulder joint is directly above the elbow joint, not further than. So back up, Pratima. There you go, right there. Now, heels way up in the air on the tippy toes. Try to flex your biceps, push the forearm down, and keep the shoulder directly above the elbow. Walk your feet as close to your body as you can get. The higher you lift your heels up, the easier it will be because you're not fighting your hamstring as much. Walk your feet towards your hands, Chaya, not away from. This is not chaturanga. Keep your shoulder above your elbow and just keep walking it in. Start testing yourself to what it takes to push down through the arm and make your upper back muscle lift your body and not just rely on the rounding of the spine and the joint. Take a nice breath. Everyone pick their heels up higher. I see a lot of heels going to the floor. Keep them up. This is to test your arm and upper back. If you keep stretching your heels down, you will never find some of the lifting action that is necessary for forearm balance, headstand, shoulder stance, and the like. I ask you to get on your tippy toes because it challenges your back muscle. All right, walk your feet back to start. Woo! Deltoids are getting tired now. Come down to your knees. Turn your palms up to the ceiling. We're going to work the whole girdle of the shoulder and the upper back. Squeeze the palm, or not the palm, squeeze the side of the hand into the block with the palm facing up. Roll the thumbnail down. Before you lift up, flex your bicep, flex that muscle and push that down into the floor so you feel the arm actively engaged. This is what helps stabilize your shoulders and open your back over time. This is why your outer arms are getting very tired. Exhale, lift your hips up into downward dog. Do not stretch your heels down. Pick them way up. Challenge your feet and ankles to be strong and your arches to be strong by pressing the 5 joints down and lifting your heels as high from the floor as you can. And then walk up as close as you can get, keeping your shoulders directly above your elbows. There you go, Katie. Good modification. Push down through those forearms. Woo! Take a breath. Roll your nails down. Flex the biceps again. Don't just try and push your shoulder down, but flex that large muscle, even if you don't think it is large enough. And try to connect more of your forearm into the floor and then lift your hips higher. Pick your heels up higher. And then you can tiptoe up to whatever degree your body has capable right now. Take a breath, walk your feet back, come down to the knees. Turn your palms flat to the floor. Wrap the index finger and thumb around the block. Don't worry, after this, you get to lay down. Now, this is going to take 2 more variations, but you'll get to lay down after that. Turn your palm flat to the floor, wrapping the index finger and thumb around the block. Don't worry, you also get to do child's pose after this, all right? So give yourself hope that after this, it'll be okay. Elbows on the floor, palms flat, spread the fingers so you can press the palm down as hard as the elbow wants to press down, even harder. Exhale, lift your hips up, flexing the bicep as you go. Good. Pick your heels way up off the floor. Make those ankles work. Make those ankles and arches stretch. Because when you pick your heels up, it shifts your body weight into your back. When you press your forearm down, it shifts your body weight towards your feet. When this happens, both muscles have to lift your hips higher. Walk your toes up far as you can towards your body. Start challenging yourself to find what's the range of motion of your upper back muscles to hold you. Walk those toes up as best you can, picking your hips up higher. Good. And then flex your biceps. Look at your arms, look at your hands. Take the moment when it's hard to learn what your body does when it's challenging. Did your elbows go out? Did your hands collapse? Re-engage it without holding out of the pose for a moment. Take a nice deep breath. Come down. Nice. If you took time to rest, good for you. I'm glad. It's okay. Knees wider than your chest, big toes touching. Sit your hips back on your heels with your arms stretched out in front of you. Child's pose, please. Stretch your hips down towards the heels, letting your bones of your leg move towards the backside of your buttock. And now with your hands on the floor in front of you, instead of letting your palm and forearm hang on the floor, lift your forearm up and only touch the tips of the fingers into the floor. And as your hips, you push the knee down, flex your thigh and push your knee into the floor, not to lift your hip up, but to push your hips back towards your own heel. Crawl your fingertips away from you, like you're trying to crawl your arms away from their shoulders as far as you can. So as your legs push your hips back, the strength of your arms walks forward. So you have the 2 parts moving opposite. You're making space. It's tiring space, but it's space. Good. Keep the palms off the floor. Keep the forearms lifted. You can keep your shoulders up. Part of this is to train the muscles of the forearm to be able to lift off the wrist, to tone and strengthen the tricep, and to open up the armpit shoulder. If you take a moment and just exhale, let your palms go to the floor, let your arms totally just hang. Feel where the body weight goes into your neck. Let your body weight shift forward into your neck a little bit more. So lift your palms back up, go back to your fingertips. Both ways are okay, but for what we're trying to do to release your upper back, you don't want to grip your neck. Take the arms out of the pose. Squeeze the blocks again with your palms. Elbows on the floor. All right. Flex the biceps. Push the forearm down so you feel the upper back widen. Lift your hips up into down dog. Nice. Heels way up off the floor. Keep your shoulder directly above your elbow, please. And then walk your feet back away from your body until your hips level out into chaturanga. Squeeze the block as you go. Walk your feet back until your hips come down at least the height of your shoulder, or as best you can tonight. And then once you're there, I want you to push your feet down into the floor so you feel your thighs pick up. And then I want you to flex your glutes and tuck your buttock towards your heel so you feel your abdomen have to flex. Push from the inner shoulder blade to the shoulder down through the forearm and tuck your butt even more. Practice tucking your glutes to feel the core flex. This is what will ultimately take the pose out of your back. Exhale, push yourself to down dog. Ooh, there's one. And do like 5 of these. Flex the bicep. I like the look of some of you gave me on the camera, like crazy man. Come down and rest. Go to child's pose. We'll take a break in between for a moment. I can already tell it's a rainy, dark Thursday, and no one asked for this, right? No one did. I will say no one in this class asked to do this. So just, you can be, I'll be mad at me. Child's pose, fingertips on the floor, forearms lifted. Turn the palm up to the ceiling, squeeze the block with your hand. 4 elbows and forearms on the floor. Lift your hips up into down dog. Keep your shoulder, lean forward enough that the shoulder is above the elbow. Flex the bicep. Press through the entire length of the forearm. Walk your feet back until your body is what you think is a level plank. A little farther back, Pratima, you're almost there. Now, best you can, tuck your buttocks. Push your feet down so you feel the front muscles of your legs very deeply engaged. And instead of looking down, curling your shoulders, look up with your head, stretch your neck out, lengthen the spine, and then think of your inner shoulder blades, stretch them to the outer and the outer down to the forearm. Pull your core muscles up like you're rounding your back like a kitty cat without picking your butt up, Pratima. Tuck your butt. All right, exhale, down dog. Child's pose. Fingertips only on the floor, pushing down through the knees. Flex those thighs so you feel the thigh muscle engage and move the bone back to the backside of the glute. Experiment with how the legs moving the hips back in a folded position might be able to create some length or fold of the hip, length to the spine by folding the hip bone, or the pelvis, the muscles of it. All right. And the palms flat to the floor, wrap the index finger thumb around the block. Elbows on the floor, please. Lift your hips up. Heels way up. Lean forward, just get your shoulder above your elbow, flex the bicep, push the whole forearm down so the upper back widens. Walk your feet back into the plank. Walk your feet back farther, Pratima. Your shoulders are too far forward. There you go, friend. You got it. Now, everybody, flex your glutes because every cheek looks cuter with a dimple. So put some dimples in those cheeks. And then take a deep belly breath and think about your navel lifting your lower spine up without tucking your butt higher. So if you feel your lower back dip down, and you put more weight in your shoulder, you've lost your core. So think about rounding the low back. Woo! You tired? Flex those biceps. Even if you don't think you got them, they're under there. Better, Pratima. Good. That right there. Exhale, down dog. Push through the forearm. Lift. Nice. Child's pose. I said 5, so we got to do 2 more. So let's add to them. Take a moment here, though. Catch your breath. And in the midst of the hardest stuff, Mr. Engar would say, is when we really learn, when we're ready to walk away, is where we ultimately decide to practice yoga. It's easy when it's fun or trendy. But the things that ultimately redefine us happens in the hard moment. So here we are, the harder moment. What are you going to tell yourself why you're here, what you're working towards? Squeeze the block with your palm. Elbows on the floor. Lift the hips up into down dog. This is the second to last one. Lean forward just enough your shoulders above your elbow, not further than. Walk your feet back. Now take the top of both feet flat to the floor without your knees touching the floor. Woo! Those hamstrings got to work it. Careful with your foot, Pratima. Now, flex your glutes. Look out in front of you. Stretch the neck long. Stretch the legs away from you. Pull the core up. Push the forearm into the floor. Take a breath. Turn your toes under and go back to down dog. Woo. We're on fire. Now we're not even going to rest. Turn the palms up to the ceiling from down dog. All right. Lean forward so the shoulders are above, shoulders above elbow. Walk the feet back till you feel that you're level, and then take the top of both feet flat. Keeping the hips, keeping the knees off the floor. Best you can. Even if you if you do it for a half a second, you fall. That's still half a second of work you did for you. Tuck the buttocks, stretch the toes, stretch the legs, lift the head, look forward, lengthen the neck away from the arm, and from the inner shoulder blade, push down through the whole forearm, flexing the bicep as you go. 3, 2, turn your toes under, down dog. Child's pose. Let your arms relax. Hips back to your heels. Woo! Made it. Ah, very good. Turn over onto your backs, please. Have a yoga block nearby. Laying flat on your back with both knees bent, both feet flat to the floor, please. Take a block, lift your hips up, and take the block on edge, right? Flat, edge, tall. Edge would be, you know, that. Take that under your sacral plate, across the width of your hip. Oh, Setubandha. Such a good one. Now, when you squeeze the shoulder blades together, think about, with your arms on the floor, palms turned up to the ceiling, can you roll from the front of your shoulder to the outer shoulder and the outer shoulder down? The shoulder blades do retract in, but you don't want to roll just on top of the joint. But you want to take that large muscle above your bicep, before your neck and trap, the deltoid, and roll it from the front of the shoulder away from the chest. So you're trying to make space from the chest muscle, the pectoralis, and that deltoid. You're trying to stretch like you're trying to stretch that armpit as much as you can. So it's not just about pushing your chest up. It's more about widening and rolling the front wide into the back to ultimately free up the joint. If you just try to push your chest towards your chin and then the shoulders down, it actually creates a lot of tension on the neck. Go wide first. All right. Cross your right ankle over your left thigh and just let the right knee hang towards the floor for a moment. Let the hip open, the groin release. This doesn't get to be so bad. Ooh. Go ahead and switch feet, please. Take your left foot back to the floor. Slide your right foot under your left leg, letting your right knee fall towards the floor. Point your right foot. And as you continue to point the right foot, the more stretch you want, you can pull your right foot towards your left hip while the right knee falls to the side. So you might begin to open up the quad, feel the hip flexors, the groin. But then notice the tendency if you just let your pelvis, or if you don't work your upper back by broadening the front of the chest, taking that deep breath in and rolling the front of the shoulder to the outer shoulder and down. Might do undue pressure in your pelvis. Go ahead, switch your legs, please. Bring your left leg up. Lift your hips, take the block out from under, slowly lower your spine to the floor, please. Keeping both knees bent, both feet flat to the floor, cross your right ankle over your left thigh. Draw the left leg to the body, grab the back of your left leg with your hands so you can distract. You can use a strap across the back of the left hamstring if you like to help pull that hip in. Don't worry about straightening the left leg, but what I would like you to be aware of is that when you grab the back of the leg, the tendency of the shoulder to roll forward. Move the chest open by rolling the front of your shoulder down and wide, almost like you were lifting the chest, similar what you were doing in bridge pose, Bandha. So you keep that broadness of the chest, not just pushing it up, but making the action happen from the strength of your arm rotating externally, so away from the center line of your body. Grab your leg, pull it on up. I didn't say straighten your leg into the air, that's fine. I appreciate the flagpoles going up. The footways are also good too. Appreciate them. Gotta have the fun. Like high five with your toes. So when you pull that leg in with the arms, work more on the opening of the chest at the same time, and then stretch the head and the neck out of the compression that can happen when we grab a hold and try to flex our upper back. Lengthen the head along the floor, not flattening your neck. Your chin stays, neutral to tilted up. But take the crown of the head and reach it for the other end of the room. So the flexion of the arms on the resistance of the leg pulls the shoulder away from the ear and wide because you're opening the chest. And you extend the head, lengthening the spine, so you begin to work not just on your hip, but all that stuff at the top end. Go ahead and switch legs. From the front of the chest out to the shoulders, it widens. The outer shoulder rolls, or the front or inner shoulder closest to your chest rolls to the outer and down. Stretch and lengthen the head long as you bend the elbows to do that pull. Go ahead and let the leg down. Plant both feet flat to the floor. Lift your hips and place the block under your sacral plate again. Those of you that tossed your block across the room because you were just done with it is not true. Arms alongside, roll the biceps up to the ceiling. And as you roll the bicep up to the ceiling and out away from the body, from the inner shoulder near the chest, roll that muscle out and down as best you can. So you feel the shoulder blades contract, not because you're flexing those muscles to pick your chest up, but you're widening the front muscles of the body, and the back muscles have room to move into the front body. So there's a width of the chest and armpit. Great. Stretch your right leg straight up to the ceiling, please. Best you can. Don't worry about pulling the foot to your knee or face, but instead try to lengthen the back side of the leg, point your foot, stretch the front and back side of the leg equally. Even if that means the leg feels like it's falling away from you or it's not perfectly up in the air, lengthen the leg as you stretch it up. Feel that quad flex, challenge it even for a few seconds. And then notice if your chest wanted to come down or if your neck compacted into your spine. Lengthen the head from the backside base and the top of the skull long, So even if your chin comes down towards the throat or chest, you're not pulling the whole length of your neck into the body. There is still an action of elongation to help keep the cervical spine free from pressure, at least in this pose. Switch your legs. Take both legs up as you exhale, best you can. Bring both legs down. Still doming the heart, working on the upper body, lengthening the neck. Stretch your right leg straight out away from your body, taking the heel to the floor. Pointing the foot like you're trying to take the sole of your foot to the floor. So stretch the top of the foot and the back of the leg equal. Now rotate your thigh, the right thigh, internally, squeezing the right thigh to the left. And then press that thigh down. Think about the top of the quad, the femur bone, here's the hip, moving that down towards the floor, not so your right hip pops up. Go ahead and switch legs. Lengthen that left leg, lengthen the top and back side of the leg. If your body's feeling it, stretch both legs out and at least try. Any pinch in the lower back, bend the knees a little bit, but still point the feet. Work the front shoulder towards the outer down, still lifting the heart, but still lengthening the head. So your legs are basically trying to stretch away from your skull. Squeeze the thighs towards each other. And as you flex the quads to engage them, to descend the bone down, flex your glutes and push both heels into the floor. Almost like you were going to lift your hips up off the block. Trust me, I'm not that much of an a-hole today to ask you to do that. Maybe on a Tuesday, but not today. Bend both knees, plant both feet flat, lift your hips, take the block out, slowly lower your spine to the floor. Keeping both knees bent with both feet flat on the floor, cross the right ankle over the left thigh to start, and then let both legs fall to the left. So your right foot, the sole of the right foot hits the floor and the left knee rolls towards the floor. Do not let your right knee fall down. You just want the sole of your right foot. There you go, Pratima. Now, flex your left thigh and push your left thigh into your foot so your foot keeps sliding along the floor towards your body into a deeper fold and bend. As you stretch your right ribs to the right. Get that rotation. Even here, the right shoulder may not lay on the floor, but still rotate the right arm up towards the ceiling. Roll the outer from the center of your right chest to the right outer right or inner right shoulder. Roll that outer right shoulder down. Untwist, switch your legs. Leaving you in most of these poses for a minute, a little longer. Go ahead, switch your legs, take your legs over to the right, letting your left foot come to the floor, and then you kind of pull that right thigh into the left foot to create more stretch and movement. Go ahead, untwist, bring the body back to center. Bend both knees, lift your hips, place the block under your SI joint again, your sacral plate. Good. Now let's squeeze the shoulder blades together by from the center of the chest, broadening towards the shoulders. Each inner shoulder rolling, opening up the armpit towards the outer shoulder and down. You can even press your forearms into the floor or in the tricep, the back of your humerus bone between shoulder and elbow down to get that lift. Then press both feet into the floor, lift your hips up off the block as high as you can. Feel the first one. This is just the legs pushing you. Take a breath, feel the pose, come down. Now, before you do it again, flex each buttock. Come on, put the dimples in the cheeks and think about the top of your buttock tucking towards the bottom of your buttock, keep your feet on the floor, Micah, the bottom of your buttock tucking up towards your knees. Let your bottom glute lift first, then your top glute, and then lift your hips, then lift your back up. Exhale, press down through the feet, tuck the glutes, up you go. There we go. It is better to go less height in the beginning, but to keep a stronger glute to teach your hamstrings to stably support your pelvis and back. This backward bend can be very good for the low back and sacral plate, but only if the legs create the most stabilizing force. So the glutes flex and tuck as deep as you can. Whew. A few more seconds. Breathe it out. Come down back first and then slowly untuck the hip. All right, one more time and then we're going to add to it. Flex the buttocks, press down through the feet. Lift the bottom buttock up towards the knee, the top buttock towards the bottom. So it's that curving from your low back. The buttock stretches towards the hamstring. And so lift the hips up. And then test your hamstrings. Pick your right heel up off of the floor an inch. Keep your right toes on the floor, that's fine, but lift your right heel up so you feel that left hamstring have to fire. Your left leg still stays in it. Your left heel stays on the floor. Might make your left hamstring cramp. I'm happy for you. Take your right heel down to the floor, lift your left heel up. Tuck those buttocks, feel which one wants to give out. Feel how it's very easy just to let your low back do the work and your hamstrings to stop. Whew. Both heels down. If you want more, keep your hips up. Don't quit yet. We're not done. Tuck the butt. If you want more, stretch your right, pick your right knee up above your right hip. If you do not want more, just pick your right heel up 1 inch off the floor. Put your right foot or your right heel back down. Pick your left heel up off the floor 1 inch, or pick your left knee up above your hip all the way. Into the air chaya. There you go. There you go, Sanjeev. Good, good go. Very nice. All right, exhale, come on down. Working the back side of the body is hard with the core, but it does ultimately help free the back. Go ahead, lift your hips up, take the block out. Draw both knees to the body. Twist both legs to the right, taking both legs towards the floor. If you need to put your legs on a block, if your legs don't lay on the floor comfortably, please do so. So when you come from backward bends like that, where you're engaging the hamstrings a lot, it's good to twist after. We're going to do 2 different twists so you can see a different way of releasing your back. The first way is where you keep your thighs together and you pull the whole pelvis across into the twist. This is quite nice because it does work the hips quite a bit. But it can also, for those of us with really tight backs or that find that backward bends like that, Bandha, wheel pose, bow pose, all of those, this can often give the release we need because we need an extension after that much flexion. Bring both legs back to center. So just so you get a before and after shot, keep pulling your left knee to your chest, stretch your right leg straight out, lay the leg on the floor. Pull the leg to your chest under its own strength. I don't need to grab it. Take your right leg, or take your right leg straight. Take your left leg across to the right side. You can use your hand to help. Keep the knee bent. This isn't full. This isn't Padagonstasana. But when you pull that left leg across and take it towards the floor, rolling onto the right hip, don't worry about your shoulder coming up. I'm not worried about that. This is about releasing the pelvis into the low back and not pinning your spine down. Whatever it takes to move that leg across, then open the heart by stretching from the chest muscle to the outer shoulder and rolling the front of your shoulder out and down. So your ribs do the movement. And at least the arm starts to extend. The chest muscle starts to extend and open. Different twist, different kind of release. I often personally prefer this revolved jatara. Then I do both knees pulled to the chest for it, giving you the option to feel which one works for you. So when you rotate with one leg across, I often find the extension of the right leg, this one can feel pretty good, especially after deep flexion backward bend. Untwist, pull both knees to the body, take both legs to your left. So we'll do the same on each side so you get a equal feel, equal work. Go ahead and twist. Keep your right leg pulled towards the body. Left leg stretches straight out onto the floor. Extend that left leg, create the extension on the front and back side of the leg, and then pull that right leg across with the knee bent to the left side, rolling onto the left hip. There you go. From the center of your chest muscle on the right side, stretch it out to the right, rolling the shoulder open. It may not lay on the floor, but there's still that extension happening. On an exhale, untwist. Stretch your legs out. Let your eyes close for a few moments. You made it. Take a few moments, cover your body if you like. Might be chilly. Might want to prop bolsters or a chair under your legs, something for your head and neck. Give yourself as much support. This isn't about forming your body into this ideal and you have to force it to be comfortable here. We explore our discomfort to ultimately find comfort. But again, not force. The legs elongated out, the eyes closed for a few minutes. With each deep breath in, slow breath out. Did you practice fueling yourself with something different than force? When you wanted to quit, did you say, I don't want to give up because I want something different for me because I love myself or I believe in myself? Can you make why you get into your work something positive? So what fuels you does not end up changing that thing you're working towards for the worse. Let the means towards your ends be just as honorable and loving and inspired as your ends. Let how you get there, let how you go down your journey be something you're just equally as proud of, if not more, than the effect you get. Because who knows if we ever reach it? We may only have the journey. Yoga teaches us to not work towards the fruits of our labors, but in the beginning, to look at how we plant the seeds. And then ultimately, that we plant no seeds at all, but live in the grace of our work. So rest, my friends, and enjoy the fruits of your yogic practice, whatever came for you.